one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
all.
Commissioner Alton,
Present.
Commissioner Creighton,
Present.
Commissioner Acevedo,
present,
Commissioner Reckner, Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti,
present,
Chairman Morelli.
Present.
Commissioner Reckner is absent. Case number 3217, application of Yulia RK of 568 Magnolia Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height for a new third-story addition at 568 Magnolia Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 67, Lot 73, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
make a motion to grant,
I'll second.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
grant,
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
grant,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted. Case number 3218, application of Michael and Wendy Goldstein of 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-112-2A off-street parking minimum, 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking in the front yard and rear yard and third-story addition at 616 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 190, Lot 246, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. We will introduce a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion that we grant with the condition that the two new apartments are limited to 2 bedrooms each.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant with conditions. Who will second?
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant with conditions,
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti,
grant with conditions,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant with conditions.
This application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. Case number 1315, application of Jordan and Leslie Price of 150 East Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.A use, 9-105.H density, 9-1121 off-street parking for a renewal of a conditional temporary variance for two-family use at 150 East Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 114, Lot 127, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Are the applicants present?
Yes, I'm just moving them up. Okay. You have to unmute yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Price. Yeah. You have to unmute yourself. Mr. and Mrs. Price, unmute yourself.
Mr. and Mrs. Price?
Yeah, you're unmuted now.
Hear us?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We just need to get your name and address for the record again.
I'm Jordan Price.
I'm Leslie Price.
All right, thank you.
We're at 150 East.
Okay. Your bandwidth is probably not that great, so I'll try to keep it simple because we can't really hear you or see you really that well. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Basically, just to
Okay.
recap, what was the reason originally that you sought this temporary conditional variance?
I've been disabled for 11, 15, 20 years now.
Okay,
I can't even remember how long.
very good. We understand. Okay, your second question. Has anything changed in the circumstances since the last temporary conditional variance was granted? Yes or no?
No,
Okay, thank you.
No,
I have no
No.
further, No, thank you. I have no further questions. Do any members of the board have questions?
No.
Any members of the audience like to be heard?
There are no hands raised.
I will move to grant.
I'll second that.
Case number 1315, application of Jordan and Leslie Price of 150 East 10th Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.a use, 9-105.h density, 9-1121 off-street parking, for a renewal of a conditional temporary variance for two-family use at 150 East 10th Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 114, Lot 127, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion.
Is this for a 2-year extension?
Yes, a 2-year conditional temporary variance. Commissioner Alton,
Grant for 2 years, yes.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant,
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant for a temporary 2-year conditional variance. I'm just going to ask all the board members too, if we can just mute our mics so we're not talking, because there's a lot, I don't know about the others, but on my end, there seems to be a lot of feedback and crosstalk from, the other mics. It seems to work when we all kind of shut down until we're talking. Thanks. Okay, Ms. Lynch, you want to proceed with the next case?
Case number 3227, application of John Oldham of 30 Curly Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.8B height, 9-105.8B side yard, 9-113.2A off-street parking curb cut size for a new 2-story house at 30 Curly Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 211, Lot 36, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, the applicant's present.
Yes. Mr. Oldham, is there anybody else that will be speaking with you, or you're doing the presentation?
I'm doing the presentation.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Name is John Oldham and 30 Carly Street, Long Beach.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Oldham. A couple of questions first to start. What's the lot size of the property?
It's 80 feet wide and 70 feet deep.
Okay. How long have you resided in the house?
Almost my entire life, so that would be 48
Okay.
years.
Okay, so now at this point, the first question would be the reason that it's being raised, the old house torn down for a new house to be built. This house isn't serviceable, the existing structure?
I would describe it as tired and with a really poor layout that hasn't met our needs as a family any longer.
Okay, so there's no the way to work around what you already have, is that correct?
Yes, after Sandy, you considered lifting it, but given the nature of multiple extensions that were built on the original house, I determined it was not a feasible project to lift the existing
Okay.
structure.
What would be the proposed cost of the construction, including the demolition?
Between 550 and 750,000 is what we're estimating.
Okay, so now the new house, as we were looking at the plot plan, because I'm going to jump to the side yards. The variances that you're requesting of 20 feet requirement, but you're proposing 9 and 6. Is that an increase in the side yard setbacks for what exists at present? Because what exists at present looks narrower, especially on the 6-foot side.
No, it's the same with the exception of it's just an offset of which side it is. So one side is 6 feet and the other side is 9 feet. We're just switching the sides that is 6 feet.
Okay, so the 9 and 6 are actually pre-existing conditions to the old house.
Correct.
So you're just moving the house over. Okay. So basically also then we look at item B, which is the height. You're going to 27 feet over the 23 feet because of the, let's call it a lift with the FEMA floodplain. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay. What do you have as a roof pitch on that home? Do you know?
It's, the proposed, it's 5 3/4 by 12.
Okay. Um, and basically now, the curb cut. So we're talking about, I know there's no, it's not taking away any spots, but now the curb cut is 43 feet. So basically the max, as you know, is 25. So you're going to 43 then for what? To leave room for 3 cars, or how did you come with the 43 feet?
Yeah, it was the 3-car garage that we're proposing, as well as the existing driveway apron extends to the side yard.
Okay.
So that was where it 43 feet originated from.
Okay, and the driveway apron is on the north side or the south side of the house, just to
North
confirm?
side.
Okay. So on the north side, that's where the larger setback used to be, but now it's going to be the smaller setback. So basically the 3-foot side yard, I mean, the 3-car garage apron will go to 6 feet. Am I correct?
No, so that side is going to be 9 feet. The north side.
Layout of the home, how many bedrooms does it have?
3.
Okay. I don't have any other questions at the present time. I'll ask any of the commissioners.
Yeah,
if they'd
I
like
do,
to-
I do, Rob. I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess the reason for the height variance is that the ground floor, now, that's not really habitable space. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Not considered habitable space?
Correct. Yeah, it's mostly for the garage space so that we can accommodate a sufficient garage height to store a larger vehicle if we needed to.
Okay, so you have three garage spaces, 2 in the addition and 1 under the house.
Yes, right.
Under the main house, I should say. So putting that 3rd car under the house is kind of what raises the house up to, 8 feet above ground or 10 feet above ground, as opposed to the flood level, which is 5 feet above the ground. So that's really the reason for the height variance.
Right.
Not that doesn't happen all the time, but I just want everybody to be aware of that.
You're done, Mike?
Yeah, that wasn't really a question. It was just kind of a statement.
Did your architect or anything suggest any ways that you could reduce the height so that it wasn't such an extreme variance? I mean, the one issue I have is that you're building new, so the codes are what they are. The side yards I don't necessarily have a problem with because it's existing non-conforming, even though you're taking it down. But the height you're building up pretty good. I understand Mike's position that the lowest floor is going to have to be at least serviceable and usable. So to have it anything less than, I guess, 7 or 8 feet would be very difficult to really utilize. But are there any suggestions that your architect has to possibly reduce the impact of the variance from 4 foot to something maybe a little less?
The architect didn't have any suggestions specifically, but I did note that the roof pitch that he selected is pretty close to the minimum recommended for an asphalt shingle roof, which would be 4" to 12. So that was the only thing, but that wouldn't really lower it much. If we went
Yeah, the structure, once you go up the above the floodplain, there's not really much you could take out of the house. Like you said, the pitch is not very much. The ceiling heights are not excessive. So if we accept making the ground floor usable, I don't see how you can get it much shorter.
Okay, so we've established that basically we're at a reasonable height that's being requested above the code. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Are there any other questions? All right, at this point, we'll hear from members of the audience. Anybody logging on, Robin?
No, there are no hands raised.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion on the application?
Make a motion to grant.
All right, I'll second it.
Case number 3227, application of John Oldham of 30 Curly Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.8B height, 9-105.8D side yard, 9-113.2A off-street parking curb cut size for a new two-story house at 30 Curly Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 211, lot 36, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo, Commissioner Creighton,
You caught me on a good day. Grant,
Commissioner Acevedo, I heard you say grant. Commissioner Brooks,
grant,
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second.
Next case, please.
Let me just move them back. Okay. Case number 3228, application of Eileen Flannelly Mackle of 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front deck at 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 254, lot 34, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Applicant present?
Okay. Mr. Flannelly, you'll have to unmute yourself. Mr. Flannelly?
His mic is not working. That's what we're getting on the
Yeah, I'm
on the screen. I wonder if it's not working because he's unmuted. Sounds like he's trying to speak. We hear something.
Right.
Do we want to come back to him? Maybe you can sort it out.
Yeah, well, you're muted now.
Okay, something's on.
Okay.
I stepped away. Did I miss anything?
No. We're trying to get the applicant on.
Oh. 32, 33.
Right.
Yeah.
3228.
No, I'm sorry.
Stop it.
We can come back. Mr. Flannelly, we'll come back to your case.
Yeah.
Maybe in between, during the next one, you can maybe fix the audio.
All right, let's table this, move aside. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Can we do 3229, please?
Yeah, hold on. Case number 3229, application of Aaron and Matthew Anthony of 32 Pennsylvania Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 32 Pennsylvania Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 264, lot 12, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, Mr. Anthony or Ms. Anthony present?
Okay, they're coming up. You just have to unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, good evening. Just give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Yep, my name is Aaron Anthony and address is 32 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, great. Ms. Anthony, first question, is this an existing house or is this a raise?
This is an existing house.
Okay, so basically, there were no changes to the outside of the house?
No,
Okay, so then how did it come to pass that you decided to change? Was there a deck on it? And you were replacing the deck with the porch?
Yeah, we have a deck right now and it's very old. It was built when the house was built, and we have a little daughter who's turning 1. So we just thought if we could get, the biggest deck we can get so she can have a
Okay.
little.
What is the size of the deck?
Our architect is actually, I think, on this call.
Okay,
Who's your architect?
Mr. Gallinaro, looks
yeah.
like.
Okay. Hold on one second, Joe. I'll put you
Alright.
on in a second. Okay. Joe, just unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay.
Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Joe. Just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Joseph Gallinaro, 185 Lagoon Drive East, Lido Beach, New York, 11561.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Gallinaro, just a simple question. What's the protrusion from the home of this deck?
The front of the deck is 9 feet off the house, 1 foot back from the property line, and the
Okay.
columns are held 3 feet back from the property line.
All right, so this is the standard deck that we approve routinely. There's no differences from that, which has been presented many times before, correct?
Correct.
All right. Any questions from the board members? Any questions from anyone in the audience for or against?
There are, hold on one second. Yep.
We-
Well, Joe, you have your hand raised, but you're.
Yes, sorry.
That's
So we
okay.
did,
Don't worry about it.
I just want to also mention that we did email a letter of support from the neighbor directly, the direct neighbor at 32. I'm sorry, at 34 Pennsylvania.
Yes, we got it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the info. Since there are no further questions, there's no one in the audience that want to speak, I'm going to move to grant.
I'll second.
Case number 3229, application of Aaron and Matthew Anthony of 32 Pennsylvania Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 32 Pennsylvania Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 264, lot 12 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Creighton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant,
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant,
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, next case, 3230.
I'm just going to see if Mr. Mackel is able to speak. Eileen, are you on?
Nope.
Ms. Mackel? All right, I think they're still having difficulty. I'll go on to the next one. Case number 3230, application of Frank Ott of 675 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2A off-street parking curb cut size, 9-113.2G off-street parking for new off-street parking in the front yard at 675 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 186, lot 42 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
The applicant is asking where the unmute is. I hope, did you find it,
Did it.
Mr. Ott? Mr. Ott, the unmute is on the left side of your screen, on the bottom.
Got it.
Okay. All right, give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Frank and Rose Ott, 675 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
Thank you, Mr. Ott. So now, basically, we're talking about a curb cut of 40 feet as opposed to the max of 25. So why are we asking for a new curb cut that's enlarged?
I want to get as much off-street parking as possible. I have 3 children, a son-in-law, and a couple girlfriends and boyfriends that come quite often. We have elderly parents that come and they have to park too far away, especially in the summertime. And we have probably 5 or 6 cars just in people living in the house. And I would like to keep an eye on the cars because of the catalytic converters and the break-ins that have been stolen from cars in the recent past.
Okay, so my question is, knowing your block as I live on the next block. My question to you is, I'd like to know that, at this point, how many cars can you accommodate off the street right now?
We could probably get 3, but if we had the curb cut, I can get them off the street easier. So I could line them up. And at any given point, if I tandem park them, I could have 6.
I'm gonna have to move to a quieter space. Just give me a minute for a second, please. Okay, sorry. So we're back. And my question to you, Mr. Ott, was now you're gonna increase by about 15 feet. What's the curb cut right now that you have?
I believe it's 25.
Okay, so now the problem with that is though, with an additional 15 feet, you're gonna be taking, 15 feet, which is maybe a car's length off the street. And, with the problem in the summer of people, and it's a big problem even, like I said, I live a block away. It's a big problem for us in this area because people from Shore Road that have even garages and parking, they tend to park their cars from their garages or parking spaces in front of our houses from Friday afternoon till like Monday morning. So parking on these 2 blocks of Olive and Olive are very tight as it is in the summertime. And I know I have to jockey my cars around all the time. My only concern is going to be that, you will gain an extra parking spot, but the guy next door to you or the guy across the street is going to lose a parking spot that might, be fitting into that 15 feet. I mean, 15 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, a small car, a Honda Civic or something like that will fit in 170 something inches. That's my concern. Now, when you enlarge this parking space, the curb cut, how will the other car fit onto the side of your property? How will that car be parked? How will it be accommodated?
So there's a retaining wall that is to the right of the garage, and from there to the
Yeah.
property line, we could easily fit 3 cars, but it's difficult to get in when we don't have the widen curb cut. And then if we need be, we can do 6 cars. There would be 3 cars tandem. So if we could get that many cars off the street, you'd be gaining more parking, because if we're not parking on the driveway, we're parking on the street.
What's the lot size of your property?
80 by 100.
So what I've seen at the house there is that you can move pretty freely all 3 cars in and out of the curb cut that you currently have into your parking. So if you wanted to come further north on one of the sides, you should be able to. As Chairman Morelli had mentioned, taking away that parking space may be more advantage to you than not, because he called the jockeying around. I call it the Long Beach Shuffle when it comes to cars and taking the space in front of the house and using the driveway and just switching around so that we don't lose a spot.
I agree with you. I agree with you that we're taking a spot, but we're also taking more cars off the street. So the people my children that live here have to find spots in the street that we are taking from other spots. So if I'm able to get all my cars off the street, we're freeing up the street parking.
Your house is a single family house?
It's a 2-family.
what I'm thinking is that you can do the same thing that you're looking to do with what you currently have without giving up a spot for the rest of the block.
It sounds to me like you can do the same thing. It's just more effort. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like. This
I mean,
person-
I have between my kids that live with me on the next block, I got 5 cars in my home. And, we put as many as we can in the driveway and so forth and block our own driveway. And we've got to jockey cars around all the time too, and it's not very convenient, to get up a half hour early in the morning to have to move, a car out of the driveway to switch them. And sometimes we end up driving each other's cars just because it's a little simpler to just grab whatever car's at the end of the driveway. And it's a nuisance where we live. And certainly, we live in an area where, one would buy a home there because generally we have some larger lot sizes. But unfortunately, because of the proximity that we have, Shore Road, used to go up to maybe Beach Street or, Penn, but now Shore Road parking extends up to Park Avenue just about. And what happens is I can tell you, I have family that live on Beach Street around the corner from where we live, Mr. Rod. And I can tell you that basically from Friday afternoon to Monday morning, there'll be a car on the edge of my driveway, sometimes that I have to maneuver around to get in and out because somebody fits a small car there. And it's a big problem that we all have. The problem is, unfortunately, we all have to move our cars around and it's a nuisance. I get it. But I'm a little concerned just about squeezing that extra, 15 feet off the street as being one more, car that somebody else could have parked. Whereas we were all doing, as Commissioner Acevedo said, the jockeying around of our cars, on a daily basis between May and, maybe October even. Other members of the board have any questions?
Well, I think it's good for the applicant, but it's not good for anybody else, to be honest. Even though they say they can get more cars off the street, I think taking the parking away from everybody else, I'm not really in favor of it. I mean, if everybody did it, there'd be no street parking and it'd still be problems.
Yeah, it's ultimately going to remove parking opportunities for people who only have 1-car driveways. That's
Can I reiterate, though, that I will be able to get 6 cars on the property? Otherwise, I'm going to be parking them on the street.
That's in peak, which in which case that's going on with everybody anyway. I mean, honestly, I understand, but that's a real peak situation. I mean, you're not going to tandem park every day. That's not the.
Sometimes when the cars are tight together, it gets even annoying to have to open the door into another car that's in the driveway and bang into it. The tendency might be, if there's a spot right in front of the house, I would park it, right there myself, rather than trying to squeeze the door open into the car next to it, on my property.
It's gonna be
That's
like
a concern too.
It's gonna be like a small commercial parking lot, so I don't know if it's really appropriate.
Any members of the board have any questions? Other comments? Anybody want to speak in favor or against the application?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on the application? All right, then the application will remain open until voting next month. Next case, please.
It looks like Mr. Mackel is able to come in by phone. I just want to see if this is, let me just find out who this is. If you're calling in for the phone, can you unmute yourself? Okay, who's on the phone?
Hi.
Who's this?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, what's your name?
Eileen Mackel.
Okay, all right, Eileen, let me just call in your case number. Hold on one second.
Thank you.
Case number 3228, application of Eileen Flannelly Mackel of 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 254, lot 34 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Okay.
Good evening, Ms. Mackel. How
Good
are you?
evening.
Sorry I had a problem.
My apologies.
It's
Yeah,
all right.
my-
Don't worry about it. It's quite all right. I mean, technology is great when it works,
When
So
it
anyway,
works, exactly. Thank you.
it's all right. Tell us, don't be nervous. Tell us why you're here. So basically, we're talking about a front porch that you want to build. And basically, you're talking about the front porch that is going to leave about a foot of yard to the property line. Now, is that with, does that porch have any kind of columns or support footings or anything of that sort?
Well, it's, I submitted the plans. Right now I have an upper deck that's a small when you come off of the main room. So this is just, I want to just extend out the length of the house, and the way it'll be built, it'll come, the columns that are there already for the small porch will remain, and then there'll be 2 additional columns that just come down to, I guess, secure the extension onto the front. I don't know how it's done, but I used the plans from several of my neighbors used the same design. So I got those plans, and those are the plans I submitted.
Okay. So
I
let's
mean,
take a
I
look
had
at
them
the
redone
plans.
I had them redone by the architecture, obviously,
Okay.
but
No.
it's the same design.
So this front porch that you have, that's the little porch that's right off the front door, am I correct?
No, there's a little porch off the front door, and then upstairs on the
Right.
the front of the house, there's the
Over the
little porch
garage,
that's
over the one that's over the garage.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
you're going to extend that one out within a
Oh,
foot of the
yes.
property line, am I correct?
Right, that's correct.
All right. So this is just basically the standard size deck that we give that will be 1 foot off the property line with the footings 3 feet off the property line, which is something, we grant just about every meeting. There's nothing else that is going on with the construction other than this. Am I correct? There's no changes in any other way to the structure of the home.
No, nothing else. Just
Okay.
an extension of our deck.
Okay, very good. All right. Are there any members of the board who have any questions? Anyone from the audience, Robin, who'd like to be heard?
No, there are no hands raised.
All right, in that case, I'm going to move to grant.
I'll
A
second.
second.
Case number 3228, application of Eileen Flannelly Mathel of 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front deck at 52 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 254, lot 34 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks? Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much.
You're welcome, man. 3231.
Case number 3231, application of Adam Ben Horan of 211 East Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size, for new off-street parking in the front yard at 211 East Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 128, lot 147 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, is Mr. Horan present?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Why, Mr. Horan, name and address, please, just for the record.
Yeah, Adam Ben Horan, 211 East Penn.
All right, so Mr. Horan, I see that you're here because you want to create a new parking spot in your front yard. As I look at your driveway, it looks like a fairly standard sized driveway on the left of the home, looking at the photograph. So basically, I see a bush in front of your patio. So now, would the parking spot be placed where that bush is? You'd be turning in from your driveway to that additional spot? Is that what we're talking about?
No, so it's actually on the west side of the house, and it's essentially it's going into the side yard, but it's in the front of the house. So it's on the most extreme part of the west side of the property.
I'm not getting a good enough picture from what's in the case. Let me just Google Earth this. Wait,
Just to be clear, that driveway was put in, and then I got a summons saying that
It's existing, yeah, it's already there.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So there was no driveway or curb cut there before?
No, correct. I wasn't aware. So I had bought this house, during COVID. I lived in the city, and I wasn't aware that I actually had to file a permit to do the driveway, and only learned after the fact when I received the summons.
And your mason,
All
your mason wasn't aware of this? I mean, I had a mason several times and they always go to City Hall for,
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just curious as to now, my question to you is this, my question is, I understand that the driveway, they got you for, but when you purchased the house, was there any curb cut there at all? Because it looks like the cement might be kind of old at the point of the curb cut, unless I'm not seeing it correctly. So when you purchased this house, there was no driveway, there was no curb cut.
No, sorry.
What was there?
There is another driveway on the what is the east side of the property.
All right, well, there's a van blocking that. I'm gonna take a look at Google Earth, open Google Earth. I'm gonna just see what the overall view is of the house.
Well, while Rocco's looking, so this took away parking from on the street?
I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not sure if there was an existing curb cut, but the reason why I did the driveway, so when I bought so this is a 2-family property, just to preference that. So when I bought it, it was for my wife and I to move into one unit, and there was a tenant in the other unit. The other tenant is, she's a single mom, and I honestly felt really bad taking away the driveway from her, because my wife and I, needed the driveway for ourselves. So, she asked if I could put in another driveway, which I said okay to, and that's why I put in just the single car driveway on the other side of the property.
Okay, so when I'm looking at the front of the house, the front of your house, okay, looks like there is a lot that is like a garden or a lawn in front of the house. Now, looking at this might be kind of reversed. This picture shows that there's a cement walkway that goes to the front of the house.
Correct.
And I don't know if this is kind of reversed from what, okay, no, it isn't. It's okay. It just looks that way. So on the right side of what would be on the right side of your home, there was a driveway, it looks like, that goes all the way back to a garage. And there's a garage on the back of your property. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's a long, narrow driveway.
Yes, correct.
All right. So on the left side, let's call it, of the house, what's the setback on that side? Do you know? From your home to the fence?
From what to what?
From the left side of your home, right, to the fence, the side that you put that additional curb cut on.
Okay.
What is the depth approximately, the width?
The width of the driveway?
Yeah, let's just say the setback. What is it, about 8 feet, 7 feet?
Yeah, 7.5.
Okay. Well, the picture that I'm looking at right here from Google Earth shows me that there was no curb cut there. Obviously, we see this because there was a Honda, silver or whitish, looks like a small car, parked where now there is a curb cut. So the problem is that unfortunately, the mason came and did the work and filled in that area, but they did take a legit curb cut off the street. And, we heard a similar case, this evening where, we're concerned about parking, and certainly on Penn Street, you have a problem of spill off from the Shore Road apartments, that the people that do have spaces, sometimes designated spaces, they will park their own cars on the street for the weekend so that their guests can use the designated spots. That's a real problem in our area, in East Home area. And the thing is, the fact that, you took away the spot and the mason took it upon himself to do it, I feel badly about this, because this, increases the convenience for your tenant, the single mom, but it, decreases the convenience to your neighbors. I mean, because now there was clearly a car, parked there when this Google Earth shot was taken. I don't know how old it is, but it clearly shows there was no curb cut on that side, and
And you
people were
know what?
actively parking in front
This
of their
photograph
house.
is, this photograph is reversed somehow compared to the survey. The survey shows the wider driveway on the east side.
Mike, I don't know, I'm gonna put this Google Earth picture.
Yeah.
So everybody can see it. If you notice, okay, on the one side, there's a long, narrow driveway that goes all the way back to an existing garage. You guys see
Right,
that?
that's how
Okay,
it shows in
and
the
then look
survey.
at where the lot is in the front. There's a garden, and then look where the white car is. You see where this white car is parked? That's where the curb cut went. And now that spot did not have a curb cut, and that spot just disappeared. So this is what the, you know, the Google Earth rendition of that. I'm sorry if you guys can't really see it that great. I'm trying to put it on, but here, if you guys can see it, it kind of shows, you know, how much space that actually took off the street, because that white car right there was, you know, where the new curb cut is. That's the
Right.
existing driveway, very long, going back to a detached
yeah.
garage.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it
I
does,
mean,
they both show on the survey, actually.
you know, it's a problem that, you know, many people have. Unfortunately, that's kind of jammed up with parking. And I mean, I see that, you know, the other homes on the same block, they all have, you know, one curb cut. And actually, you know, parking is very tight there, because it looks like, you know, there are really, there are street spots, let's put it that way. But the thing is that, you know, there aren't that many street spots, and the applicant's house looks like it's on a narrower plot than some of the other homes.
Yeah.
If you look at the Google Earth, you know, where the tab is, the home is on a narrower plot than some of these other homes. So, you know, the room is kind of tight for him as far as putting two, you know, separate driveways. Some of the other homes are a wider piece of property.
You know, you could get 4 cars in the existing driveway. They're just going to be one behind the other.
Tenant,
So,
yeah,
And-
with a tenant, that would be hard to work around. I mean, honestly, I think if this were well planned, I think that just changing your entrance path and adding a parking spot to the left of your existing driveway would have been probably even less affecting to the other spots in front of the houses.
Yeah, if we go back to the plot plan, and
Yeah.
if you guys go back and, you know, I don't know how that would have been so possible to Barry, because the only thing is, if you look where his driveway is, if you're looking at my, you know, I'm showing you the image, if he would have gone over where his existing driveway is to, let's say, veer off that driveway to create another spot in the front of the house, would have taken him right across the front path, though.
Oh, no, if he reconfigured his front path is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. Yeah.
What would you suggest? Because
I mean, basically,
I'm not really saying it too, you know.
I'm just saying it would take an analysis to figure out what actually you have had in parking and what you have now. Like what's left there, you probably with that driveway only have one spot left in front of the house now, right? Whereas I'm thinking with the whole rundown, it would have probably had been less impactful. But
even if he had to have widened the curb cut a little bit that he already had, it would still have been less intrusive than creating a whole new curb cut, you know, because even if he wanted to create a little bit more space to maneuver a vehicle to the left of the driveway, it would have just really required a little bit of a widening of that curb cut.
Rocco, there's not enough depth to put another car on off that existing driveway.
Like you mentioned before, my only concern was with the driveway. I understand it's a long one and that you can fit multiple cars there. Would just be, you know, if it was my wife and I, you know, okay, I can move her car, I can take her car like you had mentioned before, but with the tenant, you know, it becomes a little bit tricky. And I had seen a couple of other houses, and now I wish I actually would have written down the address with a similar setup and that's why I went ahead and did it. This is my first property that I'm buying. So, I'll be honest, I really wasn't aware of it. And, based on the other properties that I saw and that it's a 2-family home, I thought that the additional driveway, was, reasonable and, allowed being. So.
I just think it's a shame that your mason didn't go to City Hall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
think they could've
honestly,
sat down
they
and
should
planned
make good. They should make good on having to fix this problem with a curb cut. And if you wanted to come back, if this got denied and you had wanted to come back and maybe apply for an enlargement to the other curb cut and try to figure out something else on the existing side so your tenant could park off to the side. I think the mason should do it for nothing. Because basically they put you in a very precarious situation. They know full, any mason that has a license in this town knows the code. So if you got some guy who came from, some other town, even if he's going to claim that he doesn't do much work in Long Beach, but he would have had to have had a Long Beach license to do the work, he'd be responsible for knowing the code. So the problem, sir, is that even if you don't know the code, and you're using somebody who has to be licensed anyway to do it, they've got to know the code. There's no excuse for them, willy-nilly chopping a curb cut and, paving a whole area of your lawn and, pretending like, oh, it's all cool. I mean, and I feel badly for you because it sounds like, you had all good intentions and it sounded like someone who did the work for you. They just wanted to slap it out, and they didn't really, just wanted to make the money. They didn't really care what they were going to leave you with. And you're stuck, unfortunately, with the situation, not them. It's very sad. I mean, unfortunately, this happens and it's not good. Are there any other members of the board that have any comments or anyone in the audience that wants to be heard?
Well, my comment is, this is one that's good for the applicant, but it's not good for anybody else. And, it's not legit.
Well, just to, I guess in defense of it, I guess the tenant that would now be parking in the street, right, which would essentially be taking one spot, if the curb cut does take away one spot, the tenant is essentially, taking that spot.
Right. Well, it's a net a parking situation for the neighborhood, but you get a guaranteed spot at all times. So it's not really.
Yeah, it's not fair because what happens is, the person in the next door house, they could be a single person or have their own special circumstance, and they might have gotten there first. It's
Sure.
First come, first serve in this neighborhood when you come back to park. And the problem is that, if the tenant comes back after first come, first serve, unfortunately, they're the ones that have to hunt for the spot if it's already taken. It doesn't seem fair to another person on the block, an adjacent neighbor that, might have a similar set of circumstances, and they're the ones that are now circling around the block because they cannot find a spot. So it's a tough one, and I feel badly for you because it sounds like you were duped by a contractor, and unfortunately this happens. If in fact this were to be denied, I mean, I think you would have recourse with your contractor if in fact, he didn't file any paperwork, because I don't think he would have filed any paperwork because it would have been denied. So I think you also may need to take it up with him because he's going to need to make good on this. And, perhaps there's something that could be reached if this were denied, that by slightly enlarging your other driveway that you already have a curb cut to,
Right.
that the curb cut could be eliminated, that you put in, restore the sidewalk curb, and then at the same time, perhaps accommodate your tenant. I mean, unfortunately, it's a give and take, you have a tenant, there's income coming in, and I know that you want to be a good landlord and take care of them, but at the same time, we cannot create a situation where we're harming the other people on the block. I think it's something that may be able to be worked out.
Okay.
Is there anyone who wants to speak in favor or against?
There are no hands raised.
And if it does anything, I would be able to, potentially get letters from my neighbors. I had spoken with them about it. And, thank God I have great neighbors. So if that does anything, I had heard somebody mention it before, that they got a letter from a neighbor.
So, Mr.
Well,
Ben
maybe you
Horn,
wanna
this is
leave it
what I
open.
would say. The case can be remain open, okay? We don't have to vote on it tonight. The case can remain open. That means the record remains open. That means we can get correspondence from anyone, neighbors, whatever, for, or against, during the next month period. So if you have that in mind, we will retain, we'll remain, the case will remain open, and you can retain letters from your neighbors perhaps and support whatever you'd like to do, anything you'd like to submit on this application, since the record's open, please do so before the next meeting. Get it into us. We will read it. And we would take that into consideration. So at this point, then we would like, okay, I see someone, Stephen Conti, would like to speak against. Robin, do you want to
Hold
give the
on.
mic to Mr. Conti?
Yep, hold on.
Anything you'd like to submit on this application, since the record's open, please do so. Mr. Conti, give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Conti. I live across the street from the property you're talking about at 214 East Penn Street.
I hear two people, excuse me, Mr. Conti, two people are talking right now. Can everyone other than Mr. Conti shut their mics, please? Mr. Conti. Go ahead, Mr. Conti.
Yeah, Stephen Conti. I live at 214 East Penn Street, right across the street from the property you're talking about.
Go ahead, Mr. Conti. Mr. Conti, go ahead.
I live across the street from the property you're talking about at 214 East Penn Street.
I hear two people, excuse me, Mr. Conti.
Somebody has the live,
Gotta
somebody
stop
has the
this.
live stream on in the
Everyone else,
background.
someone else is speaking. Can everyone please mute themselves other than Mr. Conti?
Somebody is listening to the YouTube feed in the background that is 30 seconds behind. So if somebody's listening to the YouTube feed, please stop listening to the YouTube feed because it is on a 30-second delay.
Mr. Conti, go ahead.
Yeah, I live at 214 East Penn Street. And
Go ahead, Mr. Conti.
Somebody has the live,
Gotta
somebody
stop
has
this.
the live stream on in
Someone
the
else
background.
is speaking. Can everyone please mute themselves other than?
Mr. Conti, do you have the live stream on in the background?
I may have.
Okay, you need to turn it off.
Yeah, mute that or lower the volume on that. That's what the feedback is.
Is that better? Yeah, I live at 214.
No.
No.
Mr. Conti, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Conti, why don't you let us know why you're on, please?
Yeah, let's just make it quick because this way we won't run into problems. I mean, I can imagine, but please just.
I don't know
put it
how
on
to
the
shut
record.
it off. I
Go
don't want.
ahead.
Just let us know why you're
Don't worry
here.
about it.
Yeah, let's just put it on the record so we can move along.
Is that better?
Mr. Conti?
Please
Okay.
talk.
All right, please let us know just succinctly why you're against this so we can move along, okay?
Okay, I'm against it because before the driveways were there were room for at least 4 cars.
Just let us know why you're here.
Can someone please shut off that feed? It's really getting obnoxious. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Conti.
There's
Please let us know just succinctly. Someone needs to shut their feed off, okay? Someone's got, a delayed feed on, and it's really becoming a problem with running this meeting.
Mr. Conte, are you listening to the YouTube feed on another screen?
okay.
Yeah, you need to shut it off.
Yes, please exit out of the YouTube stream.
Exit out of it,
because
mute it, whatever you have to do.
It is 30 seconds off from the live feed, so it's causing feedback.
All right. Before the new driveways were there, there were room for 5 cars.
Okay, you know what? We get your point now. We're not gonna be able to do this. Mr. Conti, let me just ask you yes or no. Before this driveway was made, how many cars were able to park across that curb cut?
At least 4 cars, sometimes 5.
I can't, wait a minute.
Now
I
there's
can't
only
see
room
four.
for 2
Mr.
cars.
Conti, I can't see 4 cars parking across that curb cut. I looked on Google Earth. I see a silver or white car. It looks like perhaps some sort of Honda that's parked across the width of the curb cut. The curb cut in no way could accommodate 4 cars. I mean, I'm looking at it physically on Google Earth right now. So at the most, this guy is taking away 1 to 2 cars of space. If you want to talk about 4 cars, then you're talking about maybe the other curb cut, which appears to be legal. So on the left side of this man's home, when you're looking at it, the curb
From the
cut
driveway at next door to his house, there were room for 4 cars.
Okay,
Now
I'm
there's
looking
only
at
room
I'm
for
looking
2.
at I'm looking at a Google Earth photo of his house, and where the size of the driveway is, I see, if you can go on Google Earth yourself later and look. There's a car that's like a purple color that goes right up to the fence line of the next door neighbor's home to his left. Okay, right almost off the fence line, there is a car that looks like it's perhaps a white or silver car. The length of that car is no greater than the curb cut that's being taken away. So in all fairness, there is no way that 4 cars could be across that curb cut. I'm looking right at it on Google Earth, and I'm looking across the street at your own house. And so the thing is, there's no way that he's taken away 4 spots on the street. I'll have to give this to the applicant on this one. The applicant has another curb cut to the right side of his home that looks like very old cement, very old curb cut. That curb cut existed probably 50 years or more. The curb cut that was placed that removes a spot from the street, looking at it from Google Earth again, and I will go and look at the property myself personally. That spot is only the width of 1 white car. Whatever that car may be, I'm going to put it on the 2D version. I'm going to look to see what kind of car it might even be. It is not a very tremendously large car, and that's the width of the property. So we'll take what you said into consideration, but I will make it my business to come down and look at it myself. From the Google Earth, it's pretty clear. Does anyone have any other comments or questions?
Rocco, I'm sure he mentioned 2 curb cuts, so something's incorrect there. I'm sure there always was 1 curb cut.
There
But
always
now,
was.
if you have a space on the curb that could take 4 cars, and you put this new curb cut in the wrong place, it could eliminate 2 cars on the street.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to show you this here. If you guys look at the photo of the house, and I'm going to center it, okay? If you guys look at the photo of the house right here, okay, where there is this white car, there to the right of it, there's a purple car, there's a white car that's across the curb cut. There is no way that 4 spots could be taken away because of that 1 curb cut.
No, I don't think anybody's
I do
saying
agree
that
1
4
curb
cars.
cut can take away 2 spots.
So there's no question that some 1 or 2
There,
spots. are
there
being
were
lost
room
on
for
the street.
4. Now there's room for 2. We lose 2 spots with those curb cuts.
Right. That would make sense. Or could make sense. All right, so let's move on, because I think we got this guy's complaint, and we do know we're losing some spots. We're just not sure how many.
Thank you.
Are you leaving it open for voting?
Can we move on to somebody else?
You want to leave it open?
Yeah,
Rocco?
Yeah, we'll leave it open.
Okay.
All right, the case will remain open to voting. Let's move on to the next one.
Case number 3232, application of Brian Conroy of 62 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, and Putnam and Bay Corp. of 100 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.8 feet height for a roof deck at 87 Boyd Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 182, lot 53, on the Nassau County Land and Tax map.
All right, are the applicants present?
Hold on, they're coming on. Brian and Scott, you have to unmute yourself.
I did. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Good evening. I hope Commissioner Crichton is still in a good mood. Good evening, Scott Cohen of Council to Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202, Long Beach, New York, representing Brian Conroy the contract vendee of 87 Boyd Street in Long Beach. The current application is seeking a variance for relief from the building code in one area only, and that is height. In the canals, the code permits a height of 23 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to go to 26.6 feet. This applicant truly is an innocent applicant. He went into contract to purchase the house. The house was already built. He did not construct the house. He did not approve plans. He did not file for permits. A house was built and he entered into contract to purchase it, went into contract to sell his current home. His current home has closed. He had post-closing possession, but that has long since expired. And he and his family are currently homeless at the moment because they cannot move into this. We can't close this new home because there is no certificate of occupancy. The issue here, which we learned during the contract process, when we got the title report, we saw that there was no certificate of occupancy, and we learned that the issue was the builder went off plans and built a bulkhead and a roof deck. So that was not on the original plans. The bulkhead and the roof deck are what necessitates the height variance. Now, this roof deck is not a large roof deck. It actually sits in the middle of the house. It really is only viewable from the street if you look up at a steep angle between the house and the neighboring house to the north. The plans do not have the specific dimensions of the roof deck and the bulkhead, but from the photographs that are submitted, you can see that it is not large. The scale on the plans is 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So from that, the roof deck and the bulkhead appear to be approximately 5 feet wide and run the width of the house, which is approximately 25 feet. So again, this is not substantial, and it sits pretty much exactly in the middle of the house. This is not giving an undesirable change to the neighborhood. There are many homes in the canals that are higher. I have actually presented 4 cases to the board in the canals that the board approved height that was much higher than what we're looking for here. September 2019, the board approved a house at 68 Curly Street that went to 28.6 feet. In May of 2016, there was a house that was approved at 4 Curly Street, and that was to 27.6 feet. And July 2017, 60 Vinton, the board approved 27.2 feet. And 18 Armour, the board approved the height variance that is greater than what's being sought here. So again, we have an innocent purchaser. He's stuck. He has no place to live. We're invested too much time into this already for him to start over and find another house. He's now going to be homeless for another 3 to 4 months based upon what's going now. So I would request that the board vote to approve this variance request. It is, again, not his fault. This was not discovered until we were well into the contract process, and he was in contract to sell his house. To back out of both deals would have caused him substantial damages. So thank you.
So Scott, did the transaction already happen? Does he own this house or is it still in?
No, he does not own it because we are not, we're doing our diligence. We're not closing and letting him purchase a house, pay a mortgage on a house that he would not be able to live in because the building department won't issue the CO because of the builder going off plan.
Gotcha. So this came up in the title search or the?
Yes.
Okay.
In the building department search and going through, we discovered all of this.
Now, it seems like the builder at this point, had this home completely constructed when he was purchasing it, or was the construction still going on while he had already gone to contract on it?
I believe the house was completed
Okay, well, the question is,
or
the-
substantially completed, waiting
Okay.
for final inspections.
Well, would your applicant purchaser be able to get some remediation from the builder in terms of correcting the problem before he closes, so he can get a CO?
Well, first off, my understanding is that the builder is paying for my time here this evening.
Okay,
If the board was to deny this and the builder had to reconstruct, remove the bulkhead and the deck and reconstruct the roof, that would take substantially more time to get done. And my client, again, is still with his family, homeless.
how much time would it take him to do it? I mean, it doesn't sound like, if he screwed up, it sounds like it's something he should give a priority to and slap it out within a month. I mean,
agree
it
with
doesn't
that.
really sound like it's something that should drag out for months and months. I mean, if this guy wants to have anyone close on his house, he's got to bend over backwards to make it work. So even if he's got 10 other jobs going on, he needs to divert his attention to this one and make sure that it's in compliance. I mean, it just seems to me like another case of a builder doing whatever they want and then, asking us to fix it.
And the price of this house was sold for a higher number with that roof deck. So this is a very interesting case. Did this case go before the zoning board, and was a roof deck requested in the first round?
I do not believe that there was an initial presentation on this case to the zoning board for a roof deck. I'm not aware of that.
Scott, I would really like to make sure that what the issue here is the bulkhead and not the roof deck itself.
It's the bulkhead. It's not the roof deck itself.
Okay, right, but
they're all
Scott,
connected.
Well, yes and no, because if the roof deck was approved by the building department, that's a separate issue. Other than you have the bulkhead as a separate issue. If you're stating that, then there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. If you're stating that the rooftop deck is also part of the issue, then that's a different problem.
The denial letter states height. So
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying as well.
It doesn't specify, and the plans that I have, normally they would show where the midline is on the roof, but I could not seem to find it here. So I'm presuming that the railing is either at that 26.6 or relatively close. I believe that with the railing, it's still over 23 feet.
I'd like to see the records of the original application for this house. I think we should look at it.
I
Not
can
a
certainly,
railing. The railing is right around the midpoint of the main roof, so I don't think it's thrilling.
I mean, I certainly can get the original, a copy of the original application and submit that to the board. But again, this is not something that Mr. Conroy did, and the original application was probably done quite some time ago.
But they're dealing with a builder seller who is who's pulling a fast one and probably making a lot of money for this extra roof deck on the house. That's not a good thing to nurture in our environment.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. But again, we have someone who's stepping into this.
We understand that.
And he was. I wish I could be asking for forgiveness, but we're just looking for some help. And
Can I ask you a question? Would he
Certainly.
accept a temporary variance until the contractor fixes it? So let's say we give him 3 months to variance to resolve it?
Well, I spoke with Commissioner Kemmons briefly today about that, and he indicated that he would be inclined to go for to permit a temporary certificate of occupancy to at least permit them to move in. But again, it's not the board's problem. I have to fix that somehow through the closing.
How about just closing the project without the bulkhead and let them get a credit from the contractor for the entire roof?
Yeah, I mean, how about putting
appraisal and
yeah,
then
what about putting some monies in escrow at the closing for the contractor to fix the problem? And the money would be held in escrow until the permanent CO is granted, however it's granted. And then if this way there is no resolution of the bulkhead issue, the monies that are in escrow would go to the client, because then he's paid for a bulkhead and a deck that he's not getting.
I understand that, and that certainly is a route that we can pursue, but it is not the most expedient route. And I don't know, and I admit that I am not a contractor. I have no engineering knowledge. I don't know what cutting a middle section of the roof out of this building would do.
Scott, you're in a tough spot. You're trying to help out the client, and we understand, and we certainly sympathize with you and empathize with you. The problem that I've got with this is that, in the years that I've been on the board, we have seen all too many times, contractors make a fast one at, a client's expense or a buyer's expense. And, nothing ever happens. The board comes and, we're asked to make nice, and we're asked to give, basically relief from the code. And it only gives license to these builders to continue doing it. I remember some years back, there was a guy that built a house 6 foot, a builder, 6 foot extended more than the house should have been built. We made him take the 6 foot off, and probably he wouldn't do it again. The thing is that, this poor client of yours paid extra money for something that wasn't done legally. And now he's getting stuck with it, in is the situation that you described. And other than paying for your hourly time, there's really no great expense, or punishment on the part of a builder that knew darn well what he was doing and just decided to just do whatever he felt like it. There's a little bit of a problem with that from a precedent setting point of view. Even though every case is generally standing on its own merits. Any other members of the board have any questions? Is there anyone, that wants to speak in favor or against?
There are no hands raised.
Does anyone want to make a motion on the application?
Given the guy's situation, Rocco, I mean, I would make a motion that we give a temporary variance so that he could,
Okay. I would think that's fair, and I would agree with you, Dan. I would second that motion, because I don't want this poor guy to get penalized, but I do want the builder to make it right.
So can we think this through a little bit? If we make this a temporary temporary permit, so 3 months down the road, what are we going to do? We're going to say take it off.
Yeah, and then what happens then? The building department removes what certificate of occupancy, right?
Well,
what does that do for right now? So if we were to grant a temporary variance, does that allow him to move forward with a temporary CO so he can finalize the purchase?
If I may,
they get an opinion from the lawyer.
Yeah, I'd like to get our counsel to weigh in on this as a point of law, because this might be something that might be above our level of expertise in terms of the law. Would we be able to have our own counsel weigh in on this?
If I may.
Go ahead, Scott.
I do not believe that you have the authority for something like this to grant the temporary variance. If there's going to be a temporary grant, it would need to be a temporary certificate of occupancy, which Mr. Kemmons indicate that he would be inclined to do, but he would also then have to issue a violation to get the situation corrected. So
Scott, does
I
that
believe.
mean, does that mean that then, let's just say we went that track and let's just say that, the board didn't vote on it tonight. And are you saying that if the board didn't vote on it tonight, if we left the case open, that Mr. Kemmons, Commissioner Kemmons could go forward on his own, issue a temporary CO, let's say during the month of early June, late May, and then in that particular time frame, a violation would be issued that would have to be relieved by, let's say, your or builder
by someone
fixing the situation.
I believe that is if the board was going to act this evening, that is the way that I believe that they would have to go.
Okay.
But it's not, again, by providing a temporary CO, that I don't know that we would even close with a temporary CO because I'm inheriting a headache.
Right, the bank,
Which
may
I
have a problem with it.
which I already have.
Yeah, but there's no C of O. That's why the bank or the title company can't do anything. So if Scott gives him I don't know what a temporary C of O would do for him, but we don't need to do anything if Scott wants to give him a temporary C of O.
Right.
He could do that with or without the board's blessing.
Right, unless the board just chose to go ahead and give a variance.
If my client owned the property already, a temporary CO would permit him to enter and reside therein, but he doesn't own it. And either Kenny or myself would be committing malpractice by allowing him to close on a temporary CO that we know is never going to be turned into a permanent CO absent this variance.
And that also, I mean, essentially, he would be purchasing a home that he would then have a violation that would be prosecuted. So, I mean, he's buying a house in order to be prosecuted. Well,
Right, well, you never get the mortgage or the title insurance.
Well, CO is not, it's not a title issue, but the bank would have an issue on that, more so than the title company.
Because of the violation, right?
Well, because there's no CO, so they're lending against a property that's not habitable legally.
Okay.
Suppose this case came to us. I'm just taking another approach. Suppose this house came to us in the normal manner, and we got a 3-foot height variance. How would we feel about it? That's what
I was present the evening the 6-foot house came up. I was present at that meeting, so I know you do your due diligence and you try to do the right thing.
I can say that we've never given a height variance based on a rooftop deck. That's for sure.
We haven't been doing rooftop decks
Right.
for a while now. That's
Well, that's not true either. We've approved rooftop decks.
We've modified, Barrett, we've modified some rooftop decks. I think even along Beach Street in the West End, we allowed a couple of rooftop decks, and certainly I think one on Park Street in the West End. And I think we
in the canals,
we cut a compromise with some of the railing heights and stuff that they made the impact less from the street. I think we have I know we have granted some.
We have, but more
See,
we've not been.
I did some research on this prior to tonight's meeting on this particular place. 2 things. One is my understanding still is that the issue here, as Mike Leonetti had mentioned, is the height. The bulkhead is what's causing the problem. The rooftop deck had already been approved. It was the building of the bulkhead that caused this issue. Now, I took a walk to take a look at this house, and you can't see the bulkhead, what's causing this problem from the street. Okay, it's not like you have this monstrous fixture, this monstrous building looming over the entire block. You have this bulkhead that's covering the stairwell to the rooftop, causing this issue.
That's my point.
And that's still my, I spoke to someone at the building department about this, and they're stating that the rooftop deck was okay.
So
It's
the
3.5.
architect didn't put a bulkhead. What were they going to just have? Was it just a hatch to get up there? Is that what it was? I mean, what was the plan?
That I don't. That I don't know.
They have to look into like how this happened. I mean, if this is about a builder just saying let's just do it and then figure it out later,
The bulkhead, not the rooftop deck.
similar problem we had with the last case.
The bulkhead, not the rooftop deck.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. But they built it. Yeah.
I think I have an opinion on this right now. I mean, we are not happy clearly with what the builder did, correct? I think at this point, we have someone who is in a situation that we're in a position to help. Number three, as Commissioner Leonetti raised a really good point that to me is the salient point. If all this other stuff wasn't around this case and someone came strictly for a 3 foot above the code variance, which we grant all the time, and there were no neighbors complaining about this, forgetting how it all came to pass, would we have granted this or not? And my opinion is that we would have. So I'm actually going to move to grant this case.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Rocco. I mean, if that's the case, that's fine. I do think that our legal counsel should find out who the contractor is and some kind of.
If anything, the building department can maybe summons that contractor.
It's my only problem with that too. It's my only problem is how it came to be.
Right. So that's, in this case, it's certainly not malicious. Nobody, the applicant was certainly not trying to sneak it in. So I think instead of killing him for something that we probably would have granted anyway, I think let's go with it.
I think that keeps it clean and it keeps it simple.
Where does this leave us with the builder though?
Is there any way to ensure that the builder gets some kind of summons, penalty, or something for this?
The zoning board doesn't have the authority to do that.
So, the other thing that I will say is are we really granting a variance to the guy that Scott's working for? Are we granting it to the builder? I mean, right now the builder owns it. We're granting it to the builder. We're almost benefiting the builder for breaking the rules.
Well, the applicant here is the contract vendee. So we are the applicants, we're the beneficiaries. But on the plans that are there on file, you certainly have the builder's identity.
Right, but it is the applicant who's tonight. That's who's applying for the variance.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right, so I've made a motion to grant. Who seconded the motion?
I did.
All right, let's put this up to a vote.
Case number 3232, application of Brian Conroy of 62 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, and Putnam and Bay Corp. of 100 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.8 feet height for a roof deck at 87 Boyd Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 182, lot 53, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced the motion to grant the application. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
I'll grant the record that I'm very disappointed with this getting through in this kind of backward way.
Commissioner Creighton?
Yeah, I have to go on the record as well, the same way that, yeah, I'm a little upset at, we're granting something based on a guy breaking the rules, but, given the situation, I'll vote to grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
I grant also, but I'm very upset with the builder, and it's like he's getting, the buyer is getting punished and he's getting away with something, but I'll grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
I would say grant also, and if we can encourage building department to take sanctions against this guy and or his license in the city, that we should do that, or Scott should do that.
I agree.
Chairman Morelli.
Yeah, I'm obviously moving to grant because I made the motion, but I feel that there should be some mechanism where the builder's license is suspended for a certain period of time. I'll go on the record as saying that.
The application has been granted.
Thank you.
Case number 3233, application of John Prager of 31 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.58 use, 9-1121 off-street parking, for a special use permit for a second kitchen at 31 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 252, lot 28, on the Nassau County Land and Tax map.
All right, good evening. This is the last case. Mr. Prager is present.
Scott, is your client with you? Or?
No, he is not coming on this
Okay.
evening.
All right, Scott, just tell us why there is a need for a second kitchen. We'll cover it right to the chase.
Well, he is creating a living space for his sister and his niece. This need came about. His sister's fiance was in a car accident and has sustained a traumatic brain injury. The accident occurred while she was 8 months pregnant, and this was in October of last year. I believe in coming forward and everything. This first started with a violation issued by the building department. Mr. Prager was illegally renting this area, using it as a two-family. We started to correct everything, and in October, this issue occurred, and he asked me what he could do, and we made the application for an accessory apartment for a temporary grant. So we started out, he was using it as a two-family. He was cited. We appeared in court. We evicted the people who were there. Even in the time of COVID, we got them out, and we were waiting for the next court date. But in the interim, his sister's fiance had this accident, sustained a traumatic brain injury, and they are relying on him for support and care. So that's where we're at. I'm looking for the 2-year grant of a temporary use to permit his sister and the infant and the fiance that has the injury to reside there.
Okay, so basically now, you want to convert it into a two-family house, but why not just a temporary use permit?
But that's what we're asking for, is a
No,
temporary
I'm
use
looking,
permit.
okay, but it looks right here. It says 905A. I just wanted to make clear of this. It says you are proposing to convert your one-family house into a two-family home. So just to set the record straight, you are in 105A use, you are just going for a temporary conditional variance is what you're asking for. Because in the top of your letter, that's what it says. It just seems a little ambiguous or in conflict with what the code says. Okay, so you're going for the 2-year conditional, temporary conditional variance, correct?
Correct. I did
All
not
right.
fill out the application, so I don't know what he.
Now, the 2 parking spaces, we really can't do much of. You're proposing 1 off-street parking. Tell us about that.
It's existing.
No, it says the code, you have and are proposing 1 off-street park. Okay, so you're not proposing any extra.
We're not
I read
addition,
it
we're-
wrong.
we're
All right,
keeping.
fine. So, is there anyone who'd like to ask any questions? I don't have any questions.
So Scott, just to confirm that the 2 people, the sister and the fiance with the traumatic brain injury are the ones that are going to be moving in to the apartment?
And the infant niece.
Okay. And do you have their names?
Yeah, we need their names.
I do not, but I can certainly provide that.
Because I would say I could approve this with the condition that those specific people are the only tenants permitted in the apartment, like permitted to be renting. apartment or residing in the apartment.
I believe that is a standard condition on a 2-year grant such as this, that it's to that family member.
Right, right.
Can you
And
provide-
if it changed, we'd have to come back, even if it was within the 2 years.
Correct, correct. That's why I was asking. Yep. Thank you.
I just like to clarify something because I see the denial letter from the building department about trying to convert a 1-family into a 2-family. But on our calendar, the variance that's being sought was for a special use permit for a second kitchen. So does that matter is my number one question. I guess the question is to Joe Lupo or Robin. And the other question is, Scott, is there a separate entrance to the?
I believe there is.
Okay, so does what's on one page of what we received, that it matters that if it's different from the other page?
The denial letter reads a special use permit for a second kitchen.
Correct. But, well, that's what our calendar reads.
Then so does
on
the denial
deni-
letter.
Well, here it says, are proposing to convert your 1-family house into a 2-family house.
Right. When they submitted the permit application to the building department, they listed on the permit, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that the way the denial was written, you submitted the application saying that you were looking for, or your client was looking for a special use permit for a second kitchen. And that's how the denial letter reads in terms of what you're being denied for. And then the sections of the code, Scott has to track that language there. So let me see if the building permit is in.
If it matters, I mean, I don't know.
Steve, a lot of these ones that we grant the special permits on have read this way when it started. If you read the whole letter, it talks about the temporary conditional, but that automatically would have made it a 2-family house. So this isn't unusual from when we've granted 2-year permits before.
And I have had cases where the client has asked for a 2-family and were denied the 2-family, but the board granted when we presented what we were doing, granted the 2-year special use permit.
Exactly.
I just don't have those off the top of my head.
Another thing also is, please realize this case, this home actually is being prosecuted for an illegal apartment. It's actually due back in court on July 14th. So I'm also sure that the building department, knowing that because they issued the violation, probably wanted to be a little more stringent with a temporary special use permit, because at that point then it would be limited to the family members, not just anyone residing in the home.
Right. And I made that in the initial part of my presentation, that this is where it originated with the violation.
Yes, yes, you did, Scott. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Any members of the audience?
No hands raised.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second it.
This is
For
for
a
the
temporary conditional variance,
Yes.
It is like
2-year.
2-year temporary.
And while the applicant's sister lives at the property,
Sister and fiance. Yep.
Specific to this applicant's.
does the applicant have more than one sister?
I will get, I'm actually emailing him now to get his, the name and the fiance's name.
Does the board want to wait for that information?
Yeah, should we just hold it over to get that information?
Yeah, why don't we do that? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have it.
I'd like this to be specific, especially since this is already tied up in violation.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't leave a good taste in your mouth. So let's do this. Let's hold it open. Let's get all the specifics, because, a fiance doesn't mean the marriage has been also committed. So if something happens, situations may change, things may may not be as they are today. And I would certainly like to see the city have the option in 2 years to enforce this or not continue it. So we'll hold it over and
I have a question,
specifics
Rob,
would be submitted.
before you hold it over. Scott, have you met the people or seen any medical reports or anything like that?
I have not, but I don't know that anyone would fabricate a traumatic brain injury.
Well,
It depends how bad you want something.
It's sticky when you got a violation outstanding like this.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, we were in the process of fixing everything. We had I handled removing the person that was residing down there. So we were moving forward in correcting everything, and then this happened.
Well, I'm sure they'd be happy to take the month that we're holding this over to back up their information with anything that will help push this through.
You know, we're not being, Scott, we're not being overly, we're not being overly demanding on this, because in many cases of, temporary conditional variances where there are hardship situations, we have asked or seen, even at the first, episode of the meeting, financials, we've asked to see, the tax return, we've asked to see a lot of information. And sometimes even looking at a doctor's note doesn't mean anything, because it depends who the doctor was that wrote it. And, some will just write anything. Like with the handicap permits and so forth, a lot of people will just, write a letter for a patient. So we're not being overly demanding with our request. And I think that.
And I don't think you are.
Huh?
I don't think you are.
No. And I
because
certainly
of where
think
this
that,
case originated from.
Yeah, that's right. So I think, just to be fair to also the court, and to the building department, who works hard to, police some of these situations, I think it'll have a good ending for everybody if we hold it off and just basically have the proper documentation in the record. Okay.
Yep, no problem. I'll get you the names as soon as possible.
Just to be clear, Scott, do you know these people? And I mean, how do you know that this is, an injured person or how he's injured? You tell me it's the case, I believe it, but I just want to know if you know.
Mr. Prager has been a client of mine for some time. I have never met his sister. He's been a client.
Okay, so you know the man. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Thank you very much. So, all right, again, folks, the case remains open until voting. We're in agreement on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Robin, are there any other matters of business?
We just have two extensions, two requests for extensions of
Okay.
time.
Have a good night, all.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Scott.
Case number 2983, application of West Park Holdings LP of 2700 Two Brothers Court, Oceanside, New York, for a variance, for an extension of variance number 2983 for an addition to an existing building at 225 to 229 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 124, lots 14 through 16 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. We'll introduce a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion to grant.
We'll second.
Second the motion.
Barry, okay. Commissioner Creighton has introduced a motion to grant the extension. Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant. Robin, how long is the extension?
6 months.
Thank you.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
Okay.
I grant also, Robin.
I got you. I heard you. Case number 3070, application of Michael Moriarty of 249 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, for an extension of variance number 3070 to add a third apartment and new off-street parking in the front yard at 249 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 129, Lot 62 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. We'll introduce this motion on this application for a 6-month extension.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Who seconded? Is that Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced this motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted 6 months. And
All right,
that's it.
if there are no other matters of business, I would like to thank everyone who participated in this meeting this evening. As always, we want to thank, Mr. Frazier for doing the tech support.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you all next month. And if there's nothing else, I guess this is it. We can wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend, good health.
Have a great one.
Yeah, stay safe.
Good
Until
night.
next
See you
time.
live next month.
See you
Yeah,
live
All right.
I'll bring to that,